Hello, dear viewers. Today there are many updates on the map. We are receiving a lot of news from the Kursk and Zaporizhia directions, as well as several updates on the Kurakovo direction. But first, I would like to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription greatly supports the development of the channel. Let's begin with Zaporizhia, from the Orikhiv direction. A lot of information is coming in about Russian forces launching a large-scale offensive toward the settlement of Orikhiv. A significant amount of equipment and personnel from the Russian armed forces is involved. This morning, Russian forces continued their attacks on the settlement of Novandreevka. I remind you that a supply road to Shcherbaki and Pyatikatki passes through this settlement. Securing Novandreevka would allow Russian forces to cut off this supply route and thereby weaken the defense of these settlements, enabling Russian troops to advance from the western part of Orikhiv and potentially flank the settlement of Kamyanske, where a Russian landing previously took place from the reservoir. Russian troops had entered this area earlier. Another settlement that faced attacks from the Russian armed forces is Novodanilivka. As you may recall, Robotyne was long under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces, which had taken it as a result of a counter-offensive. The settlement of Robotyne created numerous problems for the Russian army, as did Vuhledar, which Russian troops struggled to capture for a long time. Now, however, Robotyne is under Russian control, and they have begun attacking Novodanilivka. Advancing toward Novodanilivka and Malotokmachka would allow Russian forces to stabilize the front line and bring supplies directly to Orikhiv. This morning, attacks were also launched on Malotokmachka. It's reasonable to assume that over the next 2 months, we may see numerous changes on the map in this section of the front. Meanwhile, we continue to monitor the situation on the map and move to the southern Donetsk direction. Here, there are many confirmed changes on the map, although the number of updates based on reports from the field is even higher. However, we only make changes after verification. Let's start with the settlement of Rozdolna, where Russian forces continue to attack Ukrainian forces. Although there are no changes on the map yet, it is possible that there may be updates in the near future. The attacks on Rozdolna are more about covering the flanks than full assaults, as the main forces are directed toward Yurikovo. This morning, settlements like Rozliv and Konstantinopel also faced attacks without any changes on the map. Now, regarding Maximivka, the Russian armed forces have significantly expanded their control zone from Maximivka toward Trudov. At the same time, the settlement of Suki Yali came under attack. As you can see, the movement vector is aimed toward Kurakov along the supply road. Moving to Trudov, Russian forces expanded their control south of the settlement and launched attacks on Uspanivka and Vesely High. Changes have been made to the map based on reliable information received as of today, but it's possible that Russian forces have taken control of even more territory. Another settlement in this area is Yelizavetivka, where no updates have been reported, and there are no serious assault actions from Russian forces. It's likely that assault groups are waiting to cut off the supply road or approach the Ukrainian forces in Yelizavetivka from behind. Reports have come in from the Russian Ministry of Defense stating that Antonivka is now fully under Russian control. There are also updates on the northern part of Konstantinivka, where Ukrainian strongholds attacked earlier are now fully under Russian control, with further assaults on other strongholds ongoing. Now let's turn to Kurakov. As you can see on the map, southeast of Kurakov, there are major changes. The entire territory has come under Russian control. Please note that this area wasn't captured in just 1 or 2 days, as battles for it had been ongoing for some time, but the updates were only made after the receipt of geospatial materials. This is why there were no updates on this front yesterday, but today the area has come under Russian control. Let's move to Kurakov. On the map, there are no visible changes in the settlement itself, but information indicates that Russian forces have entrenched themselves in its eastern part, and Ukrainian forces have been unable to dislodge them. At the same time, Ukrainian forces are preventing the Russian troops from advancing further. Let's continue on the map. The Russian armed forces made a powerful advance into the settlement of Sontsivka and established themselves in its central part. In turn, Ukrainian forces attempted to dislodge them using armored vehicles, but the attack was unsuccessful, and Russian forces remain firmly in the center of the settlement. Once Sontsivka is fully under Russian control, Assault operations on Stary Turny will likely begin. Stary Turny is already under artillery and air attacks. A definite preparation for the assault is underway. Once the attack on Stary Turny begins, any Ukrainian military personnel who have not yet left the area will be encircled and either destroyed or taken captive. Let's look at the direction of movement of the Russian armed forces toward Kursk. Earlier, it could have been said that once Russian forces entered Stary Turny, Ukrainian forces would still have an exit route south of Kursk. However, by the time Russian forces reach Stary Turny, another group will have cut off the southern road to Kursk, making it highly likely that the Ukrainian forces there will be surrounded. We'll see soon how these events unfold. By the end of this month, there will be many changes on the map. Continuing to observe, let's now move on to the Pokrovsk direction, where there have also been major changes on the map today. According to reports from both Russian and Ukrainian sources, Novoalexeyevka is fully under the control of the Russian armed forces, and Russian forces have expanded their control zone south of this settlement. Regarding Hryhorivka, on the evening of November 8th, reports came in that the settlement had been captured by Russian forces, with confirmations arriving this morning. Assault actions are ongoing in the northern part of the settlement of Petrovka, and it is likely that Petrovka will come under Russian control in the coming days. Let's zoom out on the map to review additional updates for this direction. According to Russian reports, attacks are being carried out on Dachin, Lysivka, Promin, Myrolyubivka, and Novotroitske, though there are no significant changes on the map in these areas. Moving on to the Kupiansk direction, since there have been no recent changes in Donetsk, Chasiv Yar, or the Siversk and Lyman directions. The Russian armed forces have expanded their control to the north of the settlement of Vishnev, advancing toward Lozova. Battles are ongoing in Pervomaiske without significant changes on the map, and Russian forces are also attacking the settlements of Zarisovo and Bohuslavka, preparing them for an assault. Elsewhere in this area, no substantial changes have been observed. Moving on to the Kursk direction, where the situation is changing rapidly. According to incoming information, Russian forces continue offensive actions in this area, aiming to secure control over several settlements. Let's check the map for details. In the Elgovsk forest area, Ukrainian forces are partially encircled, with no possibility of reinforcements due to Russian forces cutting them off from Kremina. Intense battles are ongoing for the settlement of Novoivanivka, with half under Russian control and the other half held by Ukrainian forces. Moving forward, Russian forces have taken control of the settlements of Novaya Orlovka and Stara Sorochina and have also established a foothold in the northern part of Porebki. Reports from the Ukrainian side indicate that the command has issued orders to hold positions to the end, yet the Ukrainian armed forces are struggling to stabilize the situation in the Kursk direction as Russian forces continue to deploy new reserves and equipment. As the map shows, the Russian armed forces aim to encircle the entire Ukrainian grouping in this section of the front. Information is changing quickly, and updates to the map will be made after the situation stabilizes. That's all for today's news. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.